Welcome back. You're still watching Sunrise on Channels Television from Lagos, southwest Nigeria. The federal government's latest bid to get local airlines out of the woods with the acquisition of 30 spanking new aircraft has raised discordant tunes among stakeholders in the industry. Now, how is that going to work? 30 brand new aircraft? How are they going to share it among the airlines? Are there new airlines coming up? I'm sure you have loads and loads of questions to ask, and we have a panel who can answer those questions. It's my pleasure to welcome the General Secretary, Airline Operators of Nigeria, Mr. Mohammed Tukur. Good morning.
Thank you, but I'm Assistant Secretary General.
Assistant Secretary General. Thank you very much for that correction. And on this side, I have Mr. Chris Aligbe, who's an aviation expert. Thank you, Chris, for coming.
Thank you. Good morning.
Lastly, but not least, of course, we have the Managing Director of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Mr. George Uriesi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Let me begin with you, sir, if I may. I'm sure you have more information that we can ever hope to have about this particular transaction that government is looking at to get the local airlines out of the woods. 30 brand new aircraft. How is that to be shared?
Well,
that is a question on most people's minds right now.
So what I think we as an operator, we know we have spoke about bailout based on so many committees set up, in order to bail out the industry. And if you remember the last bailout given to airline, it has gone, in another way entirely. It's just like something wrong happened. So when the current minister took over, I think she complained that the other plan of the bailout they have not carried the ministry along. So she decided to create another bailout. That bailout, according to her, is not cash given to airline, which I think is a very good arrangement, not giving cash to anybody. That's how we got to know about the plan to buy an aircraft. And I believe that the Senate Committee on Aviation, I think there is a plan at that time thinking what are they going to do, to bail out an airline. I think there is a plan arrangement to get some kind of, assistance to airline in one or the other. So I have an opportunity to know that they are talking about having a company, to form a company, if I remember that, to lease an aircraft. Maybe federal government will provide the money for and so on and so. So suddenly we had that. Is the Federal Airport Authority, they went out with the minister and trying to get along. I think the only person who can be able to answer that should be the man who is supposed to buy. But
they're involved in this.
Yeah,
they're in the thick
involved
of it.
into the.
Okay.
And I know Chris is one of the initiators because we have a discussion one-on-one, and we look at it. I said it's a very good idea, but what we were a private sector is something that somebody have to support. But whatever is going to happen, it should be done in a very transparent manner, whereby
Indeed.
everybody will be satisfied.
Now, Mr. Riesi, what informed this decision? Because people are wondering, we don't have all the details, so there's a lot of speculation going on out there. Is government going to give them this aircraft? Is he going to lease it to them? Are they going to pay back for the aircraft? Questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's been a lot of misinformation around this initiative for government to provide aircraft. It is one of a lot of different things that government is doing to revamp the sector. Now, I think this rumor about FAN being the ones buying this aeroplane stems from the fact that I went to have a discussion with Embraer in Brazil. And people don't understand what happened there. It was a federal government delegation led by the minister that was supposed to go to Brazil. At the last minute, Mr. President gave the aviation minister a different assignment to do, and she didn't feel that we needed to stop that process with the Brazilians. So we flew ahead anyway, and I led the delegation to discuss with them. And they interpreted that to mean FAN was buying the aeroplanes, which is not true. Now, with respect to the aeroplanes, for, the number 30 just dropped from nowhere.
Wow.
The issue is that the federal government is going to attempt another way of assisting domestic airlines. One of those ways is that in the acquisition of aircraft on terms that are very, very lenient,
Okay.
very low interest
rates.
borrowing
Okay.
directly from the federal government. So instead of giving airlines money and sitting back and saying they will use it to improve the airline either by clearing their debts or by acquiring aircraft, which twice now they haven't done, the federal government has decided the government will negotiate for aircraft, will provide that funding for the aircraft. But the federal government is not going to go and buy the aircraft and give to people. It's going to give very stringent criteria to airlines and say, look, we have this fund to acquire aircraft for you if you want. If you meet the following criteria, which were put together, you can come forward and say, well, yeah, I meet the criteria. I'd like 5, 6, 7, 8 aircraft. Go and finalize the negotiation with either of the companies we've already spoken to.
Okay.
And then federal government will pay the company. It won't give you
can
the
then
money.
pay the government
Yes,
back.
and then you will pay the government back. That is what it's all about.
Okay.
Unfortunately, people have just gone into the stratosphere and are just saying all sorts of things that are not totally untrue.
So 30 was never a number that the government issued at any point in time.
Why would the government choose 30 if the airlines want only 5? Up to 30, yes, but it depends on which. No single
many
airline
each
will want
airline
the 30.
wants.
An airline will come and say, I want 10 or 15. And the government will say, okay, we have the funds. We have spoken to this and this and this company. Which equipment do you want? You go and finalize. When you guys have reached an agreement, we will pay them, not you. And then you will pay us
Has
back.
the government finalized the strategy for securing the money back from the airlines if they take it?
That's where the criteria are stringent. They're so stringent that you'd have to be an absolutely serious airline to meet the criteria for obtaining these aircraft at very good competitive rates.
Okay, let's
Okay,
ask
let's-
Chris then. Oh, okay. You want to go?
Yes.
Oh,
Chris, the aviation sector is faced with a lot of challenges. We have been told, we saw Expo, that you were actually involved in this entire initiative. How is it that it was the issue of new aircraft that government decided to deal with? Is that the main issue facing the industry?
Thank you, Halira. But let us put things squarely where they are. I'm in the industry, but the aircraft initiative, let's put it back where it is. It's primarily, I guess, the Minister of Aviation. It's part of our roadmap. And so, I would be an impostor if I claim to be part of the initiators of that program. However, I always say that it's one program that I have spoken vociferously about it, in support of it, and so people can take it, that, oh yes, you are part of the supporters of this. But the initiative came from that place, and we looked at it. It's not only part of the one of the things that, taxis and whatever have been removed from spares, aircraft spares, and even new aircraft. Before you had to pay duties, you have to pay all sorts of duties. If you took spares out of it for repairs from an aircraft that they took it here overseas, and when it's coming back, you have to pay duty for it. Yes, that was part of the problems the airlines were suffering. If aircraft was on ground, what we call AOG, and the parts had to be flown in immediately for it to get back in the air, it will stay with custom, and you have to go through labyrinth of problems before you get it out. Government has removed that. It's a tremendous relief. to airline operators. So there are so many things being done. I know that, looking at the roadmap and looking at the policies that have been implemented. So much of it we support, because the problem in this country, we have always cried about it, about aircraft. People say the age of aircraft. How many times have we taken policy to ban aircraft of certain ages? People say no, it is not the issue. The issue is maintenance, if it is properly maintained. These arguments, these controversies are there. But no matter what happens, I always say this: a brand new car, whatever make it is better than a 10 years old car, irrespective of the make, whether you are maintaining it or not. The stress the body can take, or a new car can take, the old one will not take it. The engine can be as good as whatever. I don't think anybody will prefer an aging car to a new one, or an aging aircraft to a new one, no matter the technicalities, the arguments about that. And I think that in this country, over time, we have suffered this question of aircraft, airworthiness, age, and whatever. It didn't start today. As far back as even Nigeria Airways, when there was going to be this youth championship, there was complaint about Nigeria Airways aircraft, even with the technical competencies we had in Nigeria Airways, which was indubitable. BA has to send us 2 737s, with which they flew players before much of the competitors accepted yes, they were going to come. So this initiative about new aircraft, like George has said, there are conditions. I know that one is strict corporate governance. The corporate governance conditions are so stringent that if you don't meet it, like you said, then you are not in there. And I don't think that the way people are looking at it, government is not buying an aircraft. Government could have said, we are prepared to put funding for acquisition of aircraft up to 30. Not that we are buying 30 aircraft. So the question of distributing the aircraft.
So you have rephrased
what
we believe out there.
Yes, it's not
government is buying any aircraft.
Government is putting funding and sovereign cover for acquisition of this certain number of
who may wish to acquire.
Who may wish, provided you meet the stringent. One of it is strict corporate governance, which doesn't exist today in most of the airlines.
I was going to come to that. Do we have airlines that have very good corporate governance in Nigeria today? Do we?